Evan flipped his phone face down hard. The fridge droned low, and cold air licked my wrist. I grabbed my mug and felt the chip on the rim. I thought we were watching, I said, still watching him. He smiled at the table knife, then at nothing. I'm Harper, 34. The kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner and wet wool. Evan's screen winked alive, and numbers flashed tight. He pressed fast and tucked it under the tea towel. My pulse clicked in my ears like a metronome. He reached for the bowl of keys and rattled them. Metal on ceramic sounded sharp like a warning bell. I need a minute, he said, voice tired and thin. He glanced at the dark window and cleared his throat. The porch light haloed dust, and he didn't blink. The kettle hissed hard, and steam kissed my cheeks. I set a spoon beside the stove and waited. New code, I said, like I was talking weather. Yeah, he said, palm flat on the counter edge. The spoon gleamed under the bulb like a blade. I held my phone and tapped for old numbers. His footsteps slid toward the hallway with soft socks. He carried the tea towel with the phone tucked. The floorboards popped once and then went silent. My mug cooled fast, like the room itself. I followed the scent of his shampoo upstairs. Citrus clung to the banister and my hand stuck. His shadow crossed the bedroom door and squared. The bedside lamp glowed weak, honey and dim. I heard the click of a drawer, then another. Open it, I said, stopping by the dresser mirror. The mirror threw my face back, pale under yellow light. He held the phone like an egg and looked away. It's nothing, he said, as the drawer slid shut. The lamp buzzed and my skin prickled. I reached for the phone and felt its heat. He moved it to his pocket with a tight breath. Work changed protocols, he said, hands already busy. He stacked receipts beside the watch and wedding band. The watch ticked fast, like a trapped insect. What protocols? I asked, brushing the curtain fabric. The fabric felt dusty and the night pressed hard. Two-factor for travel, he said, eyes on socks. He folded a single pair and smoothed the cotton. The streetlight bled across the floor, long and thin. I set my mug on the dresser and tasted metal. The ceramic rang faint, like a glass touched lightly. He checked his pockets and gave me a small nod. Tomorrow is early, he said, already half-turned. My stomach nodded and the lamplight quivered. Downstairs, the old clock thumped in the dark. I ran a thumb along the banister, grooved slowly. The wood felt greasy and the house breathed deep. I heard the bathroom fan whine and then stop. Water pattered once like a secret code. I opened the junk drawer and found sticky notes. The drawer smelled like rubber bands and faint mint. A dried pen rolled into my palm and stuttered. I wrote the date on a yellow square and stared. The pen scratched loudly like a tiny saw. The landline sat heavy, gray and stubborn. Its cord curled like a sleeping snake near crumbs. I lifted the handset and listened to the dead hum. The hum was steady, like a hospital room. I set it back down, softer than I felt. The hallway carpet rasped under my bare feet. I stopped by the attic string and tipped the chair. The chair wobbled once, and my breath snagged high. Cool! Dust drifted from a hatch and tickled. I looked up into dark, and I counted. Harper, he called, voice flat through the door. The bedroom door muted the sound, like a pillow. Yeah, I said, and I climbed down from the chair. The chair legs knocked the baseboard and thunked. He didn't step out, which said everything. I pressed my ear to the wood and listened. I heard fabric slide and a soft plastic tap. Can we not do this? He said, voice small. The door smelled like varnish and old paint. My knuckles rested there and they trembled. Do what? I said, and I reached the knob. The knob felt cold and my palm stuck. I'm just tired, he said, moving something gently. A hanger squealed on the rod near the shoebox. I pictured a code blinking, patient and locked. I went back to the kitchen and flipped the light. White glare flooded the sink, and plates shone wet. The spun dripped slowly into a chipped cereal bowl. Water hit porcelain like tiny drums, steady and crisp. I counted drips until my jaw clenched. The mail stack slouched beside the fruit basket. Paper smelled papery sweet under the citrus peel. I thumbed credit slips and found a slim envelope. The envelope caught on my fingernail and tore. Inside was a flyer, and I almost laughed. I set it down and touched the phone charger. The cable felt warm, and the plug hummed faint. I wound it around my fist until it bit. The fridge cycled louder, and the magnet rattled. My name on a grocery list looked wrong. He came down quiet, and the stare groaned once. He held a folded shirt, and his feet whispered. "Sorry I snapped," he said, coat hooked over wrist. The coat brushed the chair back and left lint. He avoided the table, which glared like a stage. "Let me see the code," I said, steady and slow. He set the shirt on the counter and sighed. "It's not about you," he said, softer than before. His hands rubbed the seam of the shirt smooth. The overhead bulb flicked like a nervous eye. "Say it straight," I said, swallowing air that hurt. He looked at the fruit basket and grabbed an apple. The apple skin squeaked under his thumb and shone. "I changed it for work," he said, no breath left. He took a bite, and the crunch sounded cruel. The dog tag on the key ring chimed faintly. He dropped the keys back and rubbed his temple. "You trust me," he said, eyes not meeting mine. The kettle metal clicked as it cooled to quiet. I watched his mouth and saw the life forming. I moved to the sink and ran cold water. The stream hissed bright, and chill knifed my fingers. I set a glass under the tap and filled it. The glass fogged near the rim, and I shivered. He leaned closer, like he needed an answer. "I trust when I can see," I said carefully. He nodded like a reflex and took another bite. Juice dotted his knuckles and dripped to the tile. The tile felt sticky under my heel and held. He wiped his hand on the shirt and stared. The porch light clicked off, and the window blackened. Our reflection doubled and looked like strangers together. He tucked the phone deeper and adjusted the coat. "I'm going to bed," he said, voice dull as felt. The hallway swallowed him, slow and patient. I stood alone with the humming appliances and silence. The lemon candle guttered, and wax pooled shallow. I slid the sticky note under the salt shaker. The glass top felt gritty, like old sandpaper. My breath fogged the window, and a finger drew lines. I walked the hall and touched the photo frame. The frame was cool, and my thumb lifted dust. Our wedding picture beamed under warm sunlight glass. His hand rested on my shoulder like a promise. The promise felt hollow there like a shell. I listened again at the bedroom door for movement. The bed springs creaked once, and fabric whispered down. I traced the grain of the wood with a nail. The nail clicked along grooves, slow and steady. "Night," he said, but the word fell heavy. I went back to the table and opened the junk box. Rubber bands snapped my wrist, and I hissed. A folded receipt lay under a deck of cards. I smoothed it flat near the pepper grinder slowly. Numbers swam, and I marked the time with dots. The heater kicked on and blew, dusty warmth. I wrapped the dish towel around my shoulders tight. The towel smelled like detergent and faint smoke. A fork glinted on the placemat like a silver warning. Somewhere upstairs the phone buzzed and stopped. I picked up the landline and dialed our voicemail. The tone pinged sharp, and the speaker hissed. A robocall droned about a package, then cut. Plastic clicked under my thumb, and my jaw clenched. Silence pressed back, colder than the fridge. I took the chair and slid it under the hatch. The bulb in the hallway threw a weak circle. My fingers found the string and tugged once. Dust rained soft on my hair, bitter and dry. I climbed one step, then froze mid-breath. Something slid onward above me and paused. The sound was light, like paper under a shoe. My palm slicked the chair back, and I gulped hard. The clock downstairs knocked time in dull chunks. I whispered his name, and the dark held it. The air turned colder the higher I reached. I felt splinters bite my knuckles near the latch. My eyes watered from dust and old insulation. A single nail had glimmered in the hatch edge. I let the string fall and climbed back down. I set the chair against the wall and listened again. The house sighed through vents, long and tired. I pressed my forehead to the cool plaster softly. The plaster smelled like old rain and paint thinner. Behind the door his phone chimed once, like a dare. Paper scraped my wrist as I yanked the drawer open. The old printer hummed low, warming the corner desk. Bills had stacked between envelopes and a chipped coaster. I pulled the top sheet, and the ink smudged. The lines of numbers looked like ants crawling fast. The kitchen light buzzed and flickered once above me. I set the page flat against a wooden table. The wood felt tacky, like syrup had spilled earlier. Rows of digits glared under the yellow glow sharp. One number repeated again and again, like a drumbeat. I circled it with a blue pen, the tip squeaking. Ink pooled at the curve and bled into the paper. The fridge kicked on and rattled bottles against glass. That same number sat near midnight, every other night. I felt my chest tighten, counting each hit like blows. The scent of burnt dust leaked from the baseboard heater. I flipped to the second page, fingers sticking to toner. Local calls, then charges from a Sunoco off Route 9. Beside it, a florist shop with 48 written bold. I gripped the pen tighter, the plastic bending in protest. A soft thump carried from upstairs, then silence. The stair clock ticked louder, like it was watching me. I slid the bill beneath my arm, heart hammering fast. Beside my elbow, the fruit basket rocked from my bump. An orange rolled across the table and dropped to the floor. The orange hit with a dull thud, and I froze. Evan's footsteps padded above, slow and careful, like listening. I bent quick, lifted the fruit, and smelled its skin. Citrus burst sharp against my nose, sweet but sour. I placed it back down, waiting for another step. None came, only the faint groan of old pipes. I spread the bill wider, tracing the call list. That same number again, paired with motel Wi-Fi charges. Silver Pine Inn, printed clear in block black letters. I whispered aloud, my breath fogging the page. The radiator hissed and popped like oil on iron. I grabbed my laptop, the lid hot from earlier use. The glow painted the room blue, shadows stretching thin. Typing the digits. The search bar filled with nothing, only private caller, cold and blank like a wall. The paper beneath my palm grew damp with sweat. I checked the address tied to the Sunoco purchase. 3 miles from the motel, almost side by side. The cursor blinked steady, like it knew a secret. I bit my lip until I tasted copper blood. The floor creaked above me, bed springs sighing soft. I shoved the bill under a recipe book fast. The book cover stuck from sugar, pages stiff and warped. He called out something low, but the words muffled. The lamp beside me hummed louder, drowning everything else. I dragged the phone closer, cord twisting around my wrist. Plastic felt icy, almost alive, against my skin. I punched the number slow, each beat cutting the dark. The dial tone stretched, buzzing like bees inside my ear. Then a click, and someone breathing shallow, waiting. Hello, a young woman's voice said, smooth but sharp. My throat burned dry, but the words forced out. Is Evan there? I asked, pressing the handset tighter. A TV droned faintly behind her, voices layered over. He left 20 minutes ago, she said, flat and clear. My knees brushed the table edge, with digging hard. The sound of a chair scraping echoed from her side. You called me Tuesday night, too, she said calmly. A dog barked loud, shaking the receiver in my hand. My heart thudded, so loud I thought she could hear. Who are you? I asked, my voice cracking. The cord coiled tighter, plastic biting my damp wrist. Static crackled, then silence, then her breath steady. Tell him Ruby called, she said like it meant nothing. Then the line dropped with a final sharp click. I stared at the gray handset, its weight unbearable. Upstairs the shower started, pipes groaning under pressure. Water hit tile, rhythm steady like footsteps marching. Steam drifted faint through the ceiling vent above. I sat frozen, the bill glowing under weak light. The handset slipped from my fingers and hit the table. Plastic cracked sharp against wood, and the echo carried. The living room lamp glowed pale against the blinds. I pressed my ear close again, desperate for breath. Only dead air hummed, steady like a warning. My hand shook as I coiled cord back. The cord smelled faintly of dust and warm plastic. A TV laugh track lingered in my ear still. That girl's voice clung, soft but cutting like glass. She had said his name as if it belonged. I reached for a notepad beside the fruit bowl. The paper edges rasped, rough against my fingertips. I wrote Ruby in blue ink, letters uneven. The ink bled faint into the page, spreading out. That single word stared back at me, too alive. The ceiling pipes moaned as water slowed upstairs. I shoved the notepad into the drawer with silverware. The drawer handle clanged, louder than I wanted. Steam drifted faint from the bathroom vent overhead. His voice hummed behind the water, low and private. I picked up the bill again, edges curling damp. My nails scraped the numbers hard until they bent. The light above buzzed with a faint metallic whine. The same number sat there, cold and repeated. It glared at me like it knew my face. The bathroom door thudded and his feet padded slow. The hallway light spilled soft yellow across the stairs. I shoved the paper under the placemat, heart thudding. His shadow crossed the wall like a sudden blade. I gripped the edge of the chair until it hurt. He stepped into the kitchen, hair damp and flat. The smell of soap clung sharp to his skin. "Who were you talking to?" he asked quietly. I brushed crumbs into my palm, eyes on the floor. The broom leaned nearby, and I wished for its handle. "No one," I said, voice tight as wire. He tilted his head, water dripping from his sleeve. "You're jumpy tonight," he said, tapping the counter edge. The tap echoed dull through the wood, steady beats. The lamp flickered once, and shadows swayed across him. I reached for my glass, water warm from sitting. The rim felt slick, and my lips trembled. "I couldn't sleep," I said, setting it back down. He watched me too long, eyes thin and sharp. The silence between us stretched, brittle as old ice. Finally, he turned, grabbing his phone from the counter. The screen flashed bright, lighting his jawline in blue. He typed fast, thumb sharp against glass-like claws. I heard each tap over the hum of the fridge. The blue glow painted his face unreadable, almost strange. I leaned on the table, palms damp with sweat. My heart banged like a door against a frame. His reflection glimmered faint in the dark window. The glass chilled my arm, and I pulled back quick. He pocketed the phone, and his jaw flexed hard. "I'm heading to bed," he said, moving toward the hall. The words were simple, but his tone cut deep. His footsteps faded against the carpet, soft and slow. The bedroom door closed with a hollow wooden thump. The house sank quiet again, heavy and dangerous. I stared at the drawer where the notepad hid. The handle gleamed faint under the weak lamp glow. The name Ruby pressed inside, like it might bleed. The air smelled of wet towels and faint lemon. I whispered her name once more, just to taste it. The car keys bit into my palm as I gripped them. Cold night air hit my face when the door swung. The porch bulb hummed, drawing moths to its weak glow. I shoved my coat tighter, fabric rough against my neck. The driveway smelled of damp leaves and old gasoline. I slid into the driver's seat, leather stiff with chill. The dash light glowed green, casting shadows over the wheel. The engine coughed once, then steadied with a low growl. My fingers drummed against the gear shift, nails sharp on plastic. Headlights cut through the fog, 2 white spears in the dark. The streets were nearly empty. Only one truck passed me. Its tires hissed water across asphalt, spraying against my window. I followed the map dot, its glow too bright. The screen buzzed faint, and my hands clenched the wheel. Every red light felt longer, burning seconds into my skin. When I pulled into the motel lot, neon screamed. The silver pine and sign blinked green, buzzing in the air. A soda machine hummed against the office glass, steady and loud. The lot smelled like cigarette smoke and spilled beer. Trash fluttered near the dumpster, damp paper sticking to my shoe. I killed the engine and sank low into the seat. The vinyl creaked under me, cold against my back. Music thumped from one room, bass rattling the thin walls. Yellow curtains glowed faint, shadows shifting behind the fabric. I gripped the steering wheel harder, my knuckles turning white. The office door opened with a jingle of weak bells. Evan stepped out, his jacket collar pulled up high. A small white box swung from his hand lightly. He scanned the lot left, then right, eyes sharp. The neon washed his face green, making him look sick. I ducked low, my cheek pressing against the wheel. The plastic smelled faintly burnt, hot from earlier sun. Through the mirror, I saw him raise his hand. Not a wave to me, but to someone else. I swallowed hard, pulse racing faster than the engine had. A girl appeared, red hoodie zipped to her throat. Her boot splashed through a puddle, water rippling wide. Her hair caught the neon, shining like copper fire. She smiled at him, bright and open, no hesitation. He smiled back, a real one I hadn't seen in months. She touched the box in his hand, fingers brushing his. The gesture was small, but my chest burned hot. The smell of wet asphalt filled the car, sharp and raw. Her laughter carried faint, clear even to the thumping bass. It sounded young, too young, and it cut deep. They moved together toward the back row of doors. Their steps echoed soft against the cracked concrete walk. One door opened, yellow light spilling into the night. He let her go first, his hand on her shoulder. The door shut quick, leaving only darkness behind. I sat frozen, nails digging crescents into my palms. The steering wheel blurred, slick with sweat under my grip, a moth at the windshield, wings smearing against the glass. I blinked hard, chest tight like the air was gone. The neon flickered again, buzzing louder, daring me closer. The garage door roared open, shaking the kitchen walls. The smell of exhaust rushed in, sharp and oily. I sat at the table, bills spread like a trap. The overhead bulb cast everything yellow and unforgiving. My hand tapped the pen against the wood in rhythm. His boots thudded across the entryway, keys clinking loud. The bowl on the counter rattled when he dropped them. He smelled like damp pavement and something too clean. "Where were you?" I asked, voice sharp before I meant. The clock on the wall clicked once, then waited. He leaned against the counter, arms folded too loose. "Late run to the store," he said, not meeting me. The excuse fell flat, weak as wet paper. I slid the bill across the table, edges curling. The blue ink circles glared up at him, undeniable. His eyes scanned the page, jaw tight with effort. "That is not a store," I said slowly. The chair legs scraped as I pushed back hard. The sound cut through the room like a blade. His throat bobbed once, but no words followed after. He reached for his coat pocket, pulling something small. A white box at the table, light but final. Cardboard squeaked against wood as he pushed it closer. "Open it," he said, voice low but steady. The lamp above us buzzed, daring me to move. I tore the lid back, cardboard rough under my nails. Inside, a silver locket caught the light like fire. It dangled from a chain delicate and perfect. The shine almost blinded me under the yellow bulb. He watched me watch it, breathing too carefully. "It's not what you think," he said at last. His hand hovered near the box, fingers twitching. He rubbed his thumb across the chain like prayer. The scrape of metal filled the silence, sharp and cold. I gripped the table edge, with digging into my palm. "Then say it," I whispered, my voice breaking. The locket swung slowly, catching light with every turn. His eyes flicked a window, blinds half open. Outside, a car passed, headlights flashing across the room. The shadows danced over his face, hiding the truth. He finally looked at me, jaw stiff with words. "I bought it for someone," he said, barely above a breath. The words landed heavy, shaking the air between us. My stomach turned as the fridge hummed steady. I stared at the locket, still burning in my hand. "Who?" I asked, each syllable sharp as glass. He didn't answer, not right away, just stared. The silence grew loud, filling the kitchen corners. The lemon candle flickered on the counter, wax dripping slow. He pressed his palm flat against the table, steadying. "For Ruby," he said, voice rough, almost breaking. The name cut deep, tearing the air wide open. The locket chain coiled in my fist, metal biting. The smell of wax and burnt wick clung heavy. The overhead bulb flickered once, like it knew everything. He stared at the locket while I gripped the box. The chain glinted against the cardboard, a cruel shimmer. The refrigerator kicked on, humming like a warning under us. My throat felt raw, words stuck but burning to come. "Why her?" I said, my nails scratching the wood. His lips parted, then closed again like he'd swallowed fire. He rubbed his temples, sweat shining faint in the light. She lost someone, he said, voice thin and sharp. The locket rocked slowly, catching the yellow lamp glow. She needed something, he added, hands trembling near his lap. The chair legs squealed as I pushed back hard. Needed you, I asked, spitting the word like venom. The lemon candle sputtered beside the sink, wax dripping slow. His shoulders sagged, but his eyes flashed stubborn steel. No, he said low but certain, not like that. I shoved the bill toward him, paper scraping my palm. The circles I'd drawn looked angry, ink bleeding deep. You think this looks innocent? I snapped across the table. The clock above us ticked hard, beating through silence. He dragged his hand over his face, voice rough. She's a friend's kid, he muttered, eyes on the floor. The kitchen light flickered once, shadows jumping across his jaw. He tapped the table edge, knuckle against wood. Steady. She lost her mother last month, he finally whispered. The word mother landed heavy, souring the air thick. I gripped the locket chain, metal biting into my palm. The chain left sharp ridges, cold but burning deep. What does that make you? I asked, voice breaking. The fridge door creaked faint as the motor cycled down. His chest rose high, then fell slow like surrender. I'm trying to help, he said, teeth pressed together. His hand hovered close to mine, not daring to touch. You don't lie to help, I shot back fast. The spoon on the counter rattled with my fist slam. The echo rang long, like the house itself recoiled. He leaned back, chair creaking under his weight heavy. His eyes met mine, wide but fighting something hidden. I didn't know how to tell you, he breathed. The lemon scent from the candle stung my nose sharp. Every word felt like a rehearsed excuse. Then why the motel? I asked, heart pounding fierce. The locket chain slid through my fingers with a hiss. He looked away, jaw tightening as shadows cut his cheek. The table lamp buzzed louder, almost mocking us both. His silence pressed colder than anything he could admit. I shoved the box back at him, hard and final. The cardboard bent under my grip, corners stabbing skin. Say the truth, I hissed, voice raw with fury. The air between us crackled, hot and bitter like smoke. He swallowed once, then leaned forward, whispering one name. Ruby, he said again, softer, like it meant more. The sound of it made my teeth clench, so hard. The candle flame snapped, leaning sideways, barely holding on. I gripped the table edge until splinters dug my skin. Every nerve in me screamed, yet I stayed locked on him. My phone buzzed across the table, screen flashing pale. The vibration rattled the salt shaker, sharp against glass. I snatched it up fast, heart slamming in my chest. The name lit the screen, glowing like fire. Ruby. My thumb hovered, but the buzzing wouldn't stop. I pressed accept, plastic warm against my cheek. Please don't hang up, she said, voice trembling small. The diner hum filled her side, clinking dishes and chatter. I need to see you, she rushed out quick. I'm at King's Diner, she whispered, like someone listened. The candle flame spit as I grabbed my keys. Metal clanged against the bowl, echoing down the hall. My jacket sleeve brushed the fridge, cold against my arm. I shoved the phone into my pocket, still buzzing. His footsteps stirred above, but I yanked the door. The night air slapped me, damp with gasoline and rain. The streetlight flickered, buzzing like flies in the dark. I climbed into the car, seatbelt tugging my collar tight. The dash glowed faint green, humming low under my hand. Every mile toward the diner tasted bitter in my mouth. The neon sign pulsed red, buzzing loud in the night. King's Diner windows steamed, glowing soft with yellow light. I shoved the door open, bell screaming above my head. The smell of syrup and fried onions hit me hard. Ruby sat alone in the back booth, hoodie pulled tight. She clutched a spoon, metal tapping against a glass cup. Her eyes darted to me, wide and scared. Sit, she said, almost a plea, not a command. I slid into the booth, vinyl squeaking under me. The sugar jar between us rattled as she pushed paper. A folded record lay there, edges frayed from use. I opened it, hand shaking, paper scratching against my palm. It was a birth record, black ink stark and final. The name under father blurred my eyes, Evan James Carter. Ruby stared at the napkin holder, refusing to look up. She told me before she died. She whispered low. Her nails scraped the rim of her glass, sharp and fast. She said he was my dad. Her lips trembled. The word dad cut sharper than anything Evan confessed. Coffee hissed on the burner, filling the air heavy. I swallowed hard, glass of water sweating under my grip. She wanted me to find him, Ruby whispered again. She said I'd know by his eyes, she added. Her own eyes flicked up, shining like wet coins. She looked at me, not past me, not through me. The diner bell clanged again, sharp as a gunshot. I twisted in the booth, throat closing as I turned. Evan stepped inside, jacket damp, face pale and neon. The waitress greeted him, but he only nodded slow. His eyes landed on Ruby, then on me. Ruby's hand shook as she dropped the spoon loud. It clattered against the glass, ringing like a bell. Tell her, she said, voice cracking, eyes locked on him. The whole diner seemed to pause, forks hanging midair. Evan walked toward us, every step dragging heavier than the last. Evan slid into the booth, vinyl groaning under his weight. The smell of rain clung to his jacket, sharp and cold. He didn't look at me first. He looked at her. Ruby's fingers curled tight around the sugar packet, crinkling. The waitress poured coffee nearby, but no one spoke. I should have told you sooner, he said, voice flat. His hand rested on the table, knuckles pale and stiff. The overhead light buzzed, flickering against a chrome napkin stand. I was scared you'd leave, he added, softer now. Ruby stared at him like she wanted to disappear. I pressed my palms to the table, which sticky with syrup. Is it true? I asked, my throat like sandpaper. He closed his eyes, breath sharp as a knife. Yes, he said, no hesitation left to hide behind. The word cracked the air, splitting everything wide open. He leaned forward, jacket brushing the edge of my plate. Tara and I were together before you, he muttered. She left without telling me she was pregnant, he said. The silver spoon beside me clinked as my hand shook. She never called again until the letter after she died. Ruby pushed the paper closer, her sleeve dragging through sugar. Her nails clicked the glass cup, nerves rattling through sound. She made me promise to find you, she whispered. Her eyes burned, but no tears fell this time. She said you'd know by my face. The neon outside flashed red across the booth wall. Evan's reflection wavered in the glass, doubled and strange. He looked smaller under the light, like someone cornered. She's my daughter, he said, steady but breaking. The diner air thickened, heavy as wet wool. I clutched my water glass, condensation slick against my skin. You lied, I said, the words shaking like glass. He rubbed his forehead, dragging his hand down slow. I didn't know how, he whispered, eyes dull. That doesn't make it less of a lie. Ruby shifted in her seat, chair legs squealing loud. I don't want to cause this, she said, voice thin. Her hoodie sleeve brushed the ketchup bottle, knocking it sideways. I caught it before it toppled, hands trembling hard. You didn't, I said, louder than I meant. The bell above the diner door clanged sudden, sharp. A man's voice barked his name from across the room. Heavy boots struck the tile, echoing toward our booth. The smell of gasoline and sweat hit first, strong and sour. Ruby flinched, face drained white, whispering one word, Greg. The man's boots slammed against the tile, each step louder. The diner lights flickered off his jacket, shiny with rain. He reeked of gasoline, bitter and choking in the air. Ruby pressed herself into the booth, hoodie pulled to her chin. Greg, she whispered again, but this time it shook. He stopped at our table, eyes glassy and bloodshot. A crumpled gas station bag swung from his fist. Give me her things, he barked, voice slurring hard. The sugar packets trembled as his knuckles hit the table. Coffee spilled from a cup nearby, steam rising sharp. Evan rose, chair legs scraping back with a scream. You're not taking her anywhere, he said, shoulders squared. Greg laughed, the sound sour and wet in his throat. His bag dropped to the floor, bottles clinking inside. One rolled free, label torn, liquid sloshing against glass. The waitress froze behind the counter, hand on the phone. The neon sign outside buzzed, humming louder with each second. You think you can keep her from me, Greg growled. His hand gripped the ketchup bottle, knuckles whitening fast. Ruby whimpered, voice breaking, "Please don't. Please stop." I stood, grabbing the nearest thing, a heavy ceramic mug. The handle bit my palm as I clenched it tight. "Back off," I said, voice cutting sharper than I felt. The mug hovered inches from his arm, ready to break. He sneered at me, eyes dark, and leaned closer. "You don't scare me," he muttered, breath sour with whiskey. The ketchup bottle slipped from his fingers, thudding the table. Evan shoved him back, chest to chest, shoulders colliding hard. The salt shaker toppled and burst, crystals scattering everywhere. Greg's hand shot out again, but I raised the mug. The waitress finally screamed, "I'm calling the cops." Her voice cracked across the room like shattered glass. Greg froze, eyes darting toward the glowing payphone sign. Sirens wailed faint in the distance, growing louder fast. He snatched his bag, bottles clinking, and staggered back. Ruby's breath came ragged, hands gripping the table edge. Her nails scraped grooves into the sticky wood. Evan stood blocking her, chest heaving, fists still clenched. The smell of spilled coffee coated the air thick. Greg's boots pounded toward the door, heavy and fading. The bell above the frame shrieked as he burst out. Red and blue light spun across the diner walls. Ruby buried her face into her sleeve, shaking hard. I set the mug down, ceramic clinking against the plate. Evan reached for my hand, his skin damp with sweat. The sirens cut sharp as cruisers skidded into the lot. Headlights bled through the diner windows, white and blinding. Every spoon, every cup, glittered under the flashing colors. Evan whispered, "It's over," but his voice cracked on it. I watched the door still swinging, certain it wasn't.